Hi everyone, it's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I live here in the UK for the last 6 years. And today I have 7 things that my British partner loves about Canada. Now please disregard, I am so sweaty. We're having a heat wave right now. Oh my goodness, I am just actively sweating. So just go ahead and ignore that. If you like this video and you want to see more videos of what it's truly like being a foreigner living in the UK, please consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's go. Number 1 on our list is quite simply space and how much Canada has. This is something that stands out to me as well as a Canadian living in the UK, but whenever my British partner visits Canada, it's something that he really loves about Canada is the fact that there is just simply so much space. So homes typically are a bit more spread out. Towns are more spread out. There's just like a lot of breathing room. And I don't know, with it comes kind of like, it feels a little bit peaceful, if that makes sense. Now, while this is definitely a positive and something that he really likes about Canada, it does have negatives, such as it takes forever to get places because there's just simply so much space. But as itself, as its own topic, it is really nice that there is just so much open space. Things are spread out. There's a lot of breathing room. There's a lot of space. Number 2, we have aircon. Yes, aircon just about everywhere. So in Canada, it is very common that homes typically have air conditioning. Businesses will have air conditioning. Most places that you go into will have air conditioning. For me, in the south of Ontario, southern Ontario, I've never said south of Ontario, that sounds weird. In southern Ontario, where I'm from and where we visit when we go to Canada, it can get very hot in the summertime, even into the fall, into the autumn, it can be very hot. So it is extremely beneficial that most places have air conditioning, especially having it at home. For any Canadians watching, perhaps maybe you're interested in the UK or moving to the UK, most places in the UK won't have air conditioning. Homes certainly don't have air conditioning. Quite a few businesses don't have it either. Brits will tell you it's because they don't need it and it doesn't get hot enough or hot often enough, or it doesn't get hot to warrant it. I deeply disagree. As you can see, my glasses slowly slipping off my nose because it is so hot lately here in England. I am just actively sweating sitting in this chair. But it is something that my British partner does love about Canada, is having access to aircon. And it's not really a big deal. It's almost just sort of expected. Number 3 on our list is all about parking. How exciting. So something that my British partner loves about Canada is there's almost always ample parking for shops and businesses. When the building is like designed and when there's like planning permission and all that kind of stuff, and when they're deciding where businesses will go, parking is a really big element of that. So you will find typically that a lot of stores will have quite a lot of parking, and typically you're gonna find a spot. Comparatively, here in the UK, parking is almost always a nightmare. Businesses were not necessarily designed to have enough parking spaces that match the capacity of that building, if that makes sense. Lots of buildings here are old. They're old. They were not built necessarily for that business. They're repurposed. So that's why you'll see like a Morrison's shoved into this old historic building. And unfortunately, parking is not really, it's never really enough, is it? At least in my experience here in England with driving and doing errands and shopping, there's been loads of times when I've gone to a store and I've just not been able to get parking, or I've had to park someplace else, or you avoid going to certain places during peak hours because you just don't want to deal with the traffic and the amount of cars and the limited amount of parking spaces. But it is something that my partner picked up on when we went to Canada and whenever we visit Canada, is that there's just always parking. Incredible. Number 4 on our list are the beautiful, hot Canadian summers. I think a lot of people have the perception that Canada is just snowy and cold and miserable. And while that is true for part of the year, certainly where I am from, Southern Ontario, we have absolutely beautiful summers, which is also why the aircon and the air conditioning comes in handy, because we get some, 35, 40 degree weather, especially if the humidity is high. It can be quite unbearable outside. There might even be heat warnings where they say don't go outside if you don't have to because you're gonna get a heat stroke. But we certainly have some beautiful weather in the summertime, lots of sun and real sun. So my partner, I guess, didn't think that the sun was as strong, if this makes sense to any British people. So when you go like to Spain or you go to Greece or something, or you're going on a beach holiday and you're covering yourself in sunscreen because the sun is like quite intense. And I guess he sort of thought that in Canada, I'm not gonna burn. It's not that hot. It's not that sunny, surely. Of course, this was a mistake. So you can very easily burn, all right? The sun is strong. The sun is hot. The sun is strong. It is a real sun. It is a real summer. Just because it's in Canada and you associate Canada with snow and cold weather, you're gonna get a wicked sunburn if you're not careful. Number 5 of things that my British partner loves about Canada is that Canadians typically, not all, but some, have a much less focus on like binge drinking culture than what we are used to here in the UK. And we were talking about this, and I think part of it, like there's so much space, right? Things are so spread out, there's so much space, which is awesome, but it also means that you typically have to drive everywhere, which is also why we have such great parking lots, because it's assumed that you're going to be driving everywhere, and with that, it influences Canadian drinking culture. As a Canadian, I do agree with what he was thinking about, in that Canadians have less of a focus on binge drinking. And I think it's because when you go out, you kind of have to drive home. So as a teenager growing up, you really had to plan out, like, how are you going to get home? If you're going out to the bar, like, is someone going to be the designated driver? Do you have money for a taxi? Will a taxi take you home? Like, if you live quite rural, how much is that going to cost? Like, there's quite a lot of logistics to think about when you go to the bar. Whereas here in England, if I go out to the pub, I can take a taxi home, I could walk home, I could take the train. The train is so easy to use here in England. Even if you're going out for like, a binge session in London, as long as you don't miss the last train, you could take the train home. It's just so much more accessible, and it's so much easier to get around that you don't have to think about the logistics as much as you do in Canada. So I do find that if people go out, you're more likely to go out like for a meal and maybe have a couple drinks with your meal. Like, there's more like sort of a hangout dinner kind of vibe, because it is so difficult to binge drink and then try to get home. It's expensive. You're gonna have to pay a taxi. You're not taking a train home unless you live in a big city. And for most Canadians, we live in towns and villages. You're gonna be having to take a taxi or a designated driver. And that really does get expensive, especially if you have a long way to go home. We're here in the UK. You can get absolutely pissed at the pub, stagger home, maybe take a short Uber home, or even take the train home. There's so many options. Number 6 on our list is how friendly Canadians are. So my partner really noticed when we would go out someplace, or we're in a line for something, or we're at a shop or something, Canadians, sorry, that car is really loud. Can you hear that? God, I'm so sweaty. I've totally lost my train of thought. Canadians are friendly. Whenever we would go out, we'd always have instances where someone would just start talking to us. And I am very proud of the fact that for the most part, for the most part, not all, Canadians are extremely friendly. They're extremely approachable. They're very easygoing. They're happy to talk to strangers for the most part. And it's just a really comforting, friendly vibe. Not saying that British people are not friendly or approachable or talkative or that kind of thing, but I think it is more prevalent in Canadians and in Canadian culture to be friendly, to be talkative, to be open, to be easygoing, happy to talk to a stranger. And it's something that my British partner really likes. Next up, customer service. If you have spent any time in Canada or in America, because I think this is very similar between Canadians and Americans, is that customer service is impeccable. Pretty much everyone you come into contact with, even if they hate their job, you typically will find that they are very, very accommodating and friendly and approachable and kind, even if they're having like the worst day imaginable. And I really do agree that customer service in Canada and America far outshines customer service here in the UK. Not that Brits are angry or miserable all the time. Absolutely not. There is just something about the culture that is different. In Canada and the US, anyone working any sort of customer service type job, a cashier, a bartender, a server at a restaurant, they really make you feel like you are the most important thing, even if they're having the worst day ever. There is something to be said about customer service. And this one I absolutely agree with. When I was a teenager, I actually worked at Walmart between first and second year of college. I was back home. I had a couple of months in the summer. I worked at Walmart, and customer service and like being friendly and accommodating to customers is one of the most important things that you learn. It's just ingrained, and it's a extremely important part of working with the public. Whereas here in the UK, all right, I love you guys. I truly do. I've definitely had instances where I've spoken to a cashier or someone at the pub or someone at a restaurant, and they kind of let you know that they are not very happy. Just something that I've noticed, and maybe you watching, if you have experience with UK and Canada or the UK and the US in terms of customer service, I'd be very interested to know your thoughts. Now, like I always say, there are always pros and cons to any country, and Canada is certainly one of them. There are lots of wonderful things about Canada: air conditioning, sun, customer service, parking. But there's also lots of negatives too, so it's always important to keep both of those in mind. If you like this video and you want to watch more, wouldn't that be wonderful? Why not check out this video where I share 6 things that British people will miss if they move to Canada. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!